Welcome back to the As Told by Bold podcast. This is your authentic host, Stasea. In today's podcast, titled When Hits the Fan, we will begin discussing the fourth and final resilience type, rock bottom resilience. Rock bottom resilience can be defined as a time when you're at your lowest point, but you believe in your ability to change your circumstances, combat hopelessness, and fight on. Actual rock bottom means you've hit your lowest point in your life and feel hopeless about the future, whereas personal rock bottom means you've hit a rock bottom in only one area of your life. With me today, I have Roxanne, an associate family and marriage therapist, along with Linda, a transfer graduate student. Let's get into it. So, today, for my rock bottom resilience, I hit an actual rock bottom. I was 27 years old. I had just left my husband due to domestic violence. I came out to my family as LGBTQ, and I also was working with a group that I didn't feel heard, and I didn't feel valued, and psychologically I didn't feel safe to speak up, and I didn't have a very strong tribe at that time, and that rock bottom resilience was hard for me. My experience, it was extreme hopelessness, just couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to talk to people, I just wanted the day to go by, and I just didn't want to do anything. I was missing a lot of work. I was just having a really hard time. I think for me at that point in time, what shifted was my close relationship, and this connects to my relational resilience of having a person in my tribe, which is my aunt. She recommended this motivational speaker, Les Brown, and she was telling me how she was listening to him in the morning. And so I thought, okay, I'll give that a try too. So I did, and some of the things that he would say, like one of the sayings is, if you fall, try to land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. And then he also has this another saying, try to shoot for the sky, because even if you don't land on the moon, you still land among the stars. Mm-hmm. And so, like, some of his sayings and some of the things that he would talk about, he talks about failure, he talks about overcoming like self-doubt, and just really helped motivate me in the morning. He says that within the first 20 minutes, listen to something within that time frame that will help you create a space for your day, like create an energy for your day. So I made a conscious decision to listen to positive things in the morning before I started my day, before I went out and I did things, even when I didn't have anything to do. And I noticed that my energy increased. And once I was able to get going and start, I had to also find a way to maintain that energy. And what I did was, at a certain point, I recognized like what the failure meant to me, which was not necessarily debilitating, because failure is a bruise to me. It's not a tattoo. It's not permanent. Mm-hmm. I think that it's important to take that failure and create an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so this is where rock bottom resilience speaks to me, because I had to really dig deep within myself. I had to connect to the resources that I had, the resource resilience that we talked about. I connected to some of the pain and disrespect of why I was even in school in the first place to begin with, and why I was even going on this journey that I've decided to go on, of being authentic and being vulnerable about who I was. Mm-hmm. And then also like leaning on those relationships and exercising relation resilience. I think all of those kind of tied in for me in my rock bottom resilience, where I was able to use that energy to uplift myself out of this very dark place of my life, and to change the trajectory. So I did spend a lot of time doing self-care. I love yoga, so I did a lot of yoga. I talked to people. I listened to my motivational talks, and some days were easier than others. Some days I woke up and it was just hard, and I just had to acknowledge that it was a harder day, and I just had to, give myself some self-grace, and hope for better tomorrow. And journal. I journaled a lot too to get it out. and say what I wanted to say. But I also did seek a therapist. Thank goodness for sliding scales on a student budget, because that was hard. But, you know, I paid a reasonable amount. I think it was like $14 every session, and I just I was so fortunate to connect with someone that I could talk to that understood me. And I've been seeing her since, and she has also been a very important piece in me uplifting myself out of this rock bottom experience I had in my life.
That's so good.
Yeah.
You touch on so much that is so important. Especially love that analogy that you said about the bruise.
Yeah.
You know, because if you think about what happens with a bruise is, you know, like it hurts, right? Like when you touch it or something touches around it, it's like, ooh, ow, that sucks, that hurts. But then there's all these things that go into healing that bruise, right? The bruise doesn't just get better on its own. It does. The body's amazing. Yeah. But then you think about like all the systems that's involved with getting that bruise better, you know, with healing that blood vessel. And there's all those components that you talked about with, you know, connecting to your community, realizing your strengths, learning your self-aware, or being more self-aware, having self-compassion for yourself, and knowing your worth to do something that started your day in a positive way. Right. And then also reaching out for that help, whatever form it comes in, you know, like going to a therapist, going to your family, going to your friends, wherever you're getting that help to help heal that bruise, it's essential. So there's so many great elements in that. Yeah,
I think that I feel like I'm kind of out of this rock bottom space. I do have areas that I can grow and learn, but I think the main thing that I learned through this experience, it was a hard lesson to learn, but it was to always be true to who I am, no matter what. Because I tried to hide who I was. I tried to people won't like me because of this part of me, because it's not accepted by society. But at the end of the day, like when you're being vulnerable and then you're being like authentic, the reality is not everybody's gonna like you. So if I might as well not be liked for who I really am than not be liked for who I'm not.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest lesson that I learned from my rock bottom resilience, was to always be myself, no matter what. As long as it's not hurting anybody and it's not hurting me, I should continue doing what that is for me, and likewise for everyone else. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Stacey.
Yeah.
I guess I'll share my experience with the concept of rock bottom resilience. I think of my personal story with postpartum depression. So my son is 2.5, wonderful little boy, but even after 2.5 years, I'm still pulling myself up out of that postpartum depression. There was a period where it felt like I was just at my lowest and I couldn't dig out. I was stuck. I was just underneath this pile of layers and layers of dirt, and it was just so dark. I felt like I couldn't, I was failing as a mom, I was failing as a wife, I was failing going back to work and really engaging as a clinician, and like really feeling like I was on the same level with everybody else. Even conversations were difficult to have. You know, all I knew were like nursery rhymes and like, you know. So it's that plus the biological change that happens to your brain when you become a mother. And it does eventually get better over time, you know, especially if you continue to strengthen your brain. But it was like the postpartum depression was like feeding into itself. And although I knew that there was a possibility of me having postpartum depression, I didn't realize how deep it would get. And I did seek help. I saw a therapist, and she was amazing and so warm and welcoming. And I was doing my work in that area, but I didn't realize it also took doing work outside of therapy. You know, really learning how to know myself again as a new person and love that part of myself. And, you know, it kind of speaks to what Stacey was talking about in her story, where like you know, you have to just be you at the end of the day and learn to love that and find worth in that. And so I started working a little bit more at seeing my strengths, not just nitpicking at the little things that I wasn't doing, or, you know, not being the perfect mom or wife or therapist, but like just realizing I'm doing my best and I'm being me at the end of the day. And that slowly started to pull me out. And then it also helped me having a really, like, learning how to reach out for help. You know, learning to reach out to a therapist, number one, and learning to bond and connect with other people who have gone through similar experiences. You know, I've kind of found a bit of a mom tribe where, you know, they're still pulling themselves out of that rock bottom as well. So we share our experiences, we bounce back and forth, and we learn, oh, that worked for you, maybe that can work for me, and it's okay that it's not working for you. So it's kind of like, you know, learning, growing, improving, and then also accepting sometimes, you know, like you were talking about, there are days that suck. There are days where it's like, do I really have to get up? Like, really? But then I realize there's this little boy who's at the edge of my bed who's like, Mommy.
Oh, my heart.
So, I want to give a shout out to one of my friends too, and I won't name her because I don't know if she's comfortable with me sharing this, but I will share a part of her story where it does relate to this as well. But she lost her child. And girl, you know who I'm talking about. I know you listen to this. But she was 22 weeks pregnant, and her child was born early, and did not survive. And she is also still pulling herself up out of that rock bottom. She's, you know, we talk constantly, and she shares her honest feelings of what that feels like to lose and to still feel like it doesn't feel like it's getting any easier. I'm on the objective outside, so I can see it is getting a little bit better each time. Time has helped a little bit. But she has shown so much strength and so much of this kind of resilience, where she's not only realizing the strengths within herself to get past this and realize, like, she's healing through this, but she's also reaching out. You know, she's using her resources outside of her to heal from this and to grow and to realize, like, you are a beautiful mother, and that like her strength has continued to shine through that. So I want to give you a shout out, girl. I love you, and you know you inspire me so much.
Love it.
Thank you.
I never got to meet my grandfather, but and it's like, well, how did he just disappear? But like, according to my grandma, like, I guess he would just like leave for a couple days and come back home. Like, he was that guy where if something went wrong, he would just bounce out and then come back in.
Yeah.
So like, when he like decided to just leave, like, my grandma thought that, like, oh, well, he's probably gonna be coming back for a couple days, and then that's when they realized, like, he just decided to leave, because my grandma and him weren't exactly married, so there was nothing really tying him.
Yeah.
It was just really weird, like, why would he leave? So yeah.
How amazing of your grandma too. You know, like, to have to go over repeated hurt of, like, him leaving and then coming back, leaving, coming back.
Right.
You know, it was like multiple rock bottom in that instance, you know.
Yeah.
But then, like, the big event of, like, he's not here anymore.
Right. I think what's, like, very interesting, and I feel like I connect to both of your stories, is rock bottom can feel dark, and rock bottom is hard, and it feels like hopelessness, you know. This is just, it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, to me, it's so interesting. Like, I think that it's important for each individual to look within themselves, in that space of, like, darkness, because I know it's very hard and very difficult, and for me, like, I felt like it was like the end of the world. Like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do anything. At one point, I thought I was going to be homeless, you know? So to shift from that to having energy of life, it's what Christian Moore talks about in the beginning of his book, which is called the flipping the switch. And it's basically when you flip the switch, you stop for a moment and you realize that you can turn your pain into power, and you can move forward being committed to being resilient. And in his book, he talks about just acknowledging that switch is there. That's the biggest thing, because before flipping the switch, it's easy to, I feel like for me it was very easy to just like wallow in it,
Right.
and soak in that hopelessness and my rock bottom. But when I acknowledge, and I think some people can do it consciously once you acknowledge that the switch is there, but some people do it unconsciously, and that they just flip the switch and they know that it's there. And what's great about flipping a switch is that it actually gives you something to do with that energy, and especially if it's really deep and really dark and really hard, like that can serve as energy, like whether it's a positive or negative energy that can allow us to use that energy to like move forward and do something great with that. So I feel like my experiences have not defined me, but they have helped shape me to like show myself that I can do things that I didn't think I was capable of doing, and press past certain barriers that I thought I wouldn't be able to move forward past. So
Right. That's a good point. And, I like that you mentioned the idea of both positive and negative emotions, because they're both going to exist.
right.
Regardless of I'm all the way up here, everything's going great, you will experience those feelings, those unpleasant, uncomfortable, distressing, like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But that can give you energy, like you said.
Yeah.
That energy fuels you to know that there's more than just these negative feelings or
Right.
negative experiences. There's more to life. There's the joy that you've experienced in the past. You felt that feeling.
Right.
Reach into that, feel that joy, know that you can be there again. It might look different, and your situation in life might look different, but that's okay. And you'll probably experience even more joy than you ever have in your life.
Right.
So I love that. It's definitely that idea, that concept of flipping the switch is so important to acknowledge that we all have that. It's just being able to take the time to try to seek out that switch in the darkness.
Every
It's
day.
there,
Yes.
right?
Every day. Every
right.
day I had to wake up. Am I flipping the switch today? Did I flip the switch today at the end of the day? And just keep, asking myself, and then having people to keep accountable.
Yeah. Right. And sometimes somebody has to flip the switch for you.
Right.
Like,
Show you how to do it.
yeah, like here comes my baby, like flipping the switch on and off. I'm like, honey, I need it on.
Wow. That's
Thank you for listening to this segment. Next, we have a short 90-second story from one of our own CSUF students.
Rock bottom means being at the lowest possible point in life. That moment came for me in 2011 when I was a homeless addict, stuck in an unforgiving cycle of incarceration. Coming face to face and accepting that truth meant that I didn't have any excuses anymore. It became my responsibility to change. I stopped everything that was comfortable and familiar to me. I put down the drugs and I moved away from my neighborhood. I had hope that I could change my life even without any evidence that doing so was possible for me. I held on to that hope every day, and it got me through my crippling fear of change and feelings of insecurity and inadequacy. I enrolled in school pursuing an associate's degree, every day feeling like an imposter on campus. I earned my associate's degree and found that with the right support, I could pursue my bachelor's degree. Today, I am a student at California State University, Fullerton, majoring in criminal justice and minoring in Asian American studies. I hold a 4.0 institutional GPA, and I'm the president of a student organization for formerly incarcerated students. I am a present and loving daughter, sister, friend, aunt, and cat mom. I have dreams today of attending grad school and doing meaningful research. I believe that no matter what happens in life, I can walk through it holding on to that same hope that got me out of a hopeless situation. Resilience means not giving up. Resilience means to continue believing in yourself. If you are in pain and you hear this, you are resilient.
Thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast about rock bottom resilience. Unfortunately, this concludes the As Told by Bold podcast, a mini-series. We'll see you next time.